Okay, so today, Wednesday's calculation, we have 244 divided by 20. So what I'm going to do on this one is go with the idea that I know that whatever I have, I'm going to add a 0 at the end. And I know that too, right? Because remember, think of it this way. 2 times some number is going to give me closest to this. I'm going to go with 12. And that gives me 24. And when I add my 0, so watch what I'm going to do. When I put that 0 in here, I'm going to add a 0 at the end of here. So I know my answer is going to be 12, and it's going to be a little bit more because I need this 4. Okay, so let's take a look. This one's a little different, right? When I'm here and I have my 2, I cannot make a group of 20. But when I have 24, I can, right? I'm going to make one group of 20. I'm going to put my 1 up here. 20 times 1, I'm just going to write that below. Gives me 20. And when I subtract, I start here. I have 4 left here. And I'm going to bring down this 4. Okay, so I knew I had my 4, and then I brought down my other 4. Well, if one group of 20 is 20, I know that 2 groups of 20 is going to be 40. So when I write that on there, right, I'm going to have my 40, and then I'm just going to subtract. I'm going to have my 4. Well, now I need to bring it down. So remember, this is what we talked about. I put my decimal. I'm going to extend that. My decimal goes up here. I'm going to put a 0 here, and that 0 I'm going to bring down. Here's my 0. And notice I have 40, so I'm going to do another 2 groups. And 20 times 2 gives me 40. So there's my 0. So there's my answer. It's 12 and 2/10. Notice that was really close to the 12, and I knew it was going to be a little more. Okay, so our next problem, sorry about the glare, 1 second. Okay, sorry, it's going to be that way. 49.6 divided by 6.2. I'm going to treat this like 50, and this is going to be divided by 6. Well, I know that 6 times, okay, so what I know is 6 times 8 gives me 48. So I know my number is going to be around 8, okay? So I'm going to do it from here then. So I know my answer is going to be somewhere around 8, okay? Now remember, this I rounded up to get to there, rounded down for that. So let's take a look. When I divide, whenever I'm using decimals, I'm going to look at this number outside the bar. If it's written horizontally, I'm going to look at the number that's after. Okay, so I'm going to round this. If I move this one, sorry, I said round it. What I meant was if I move that decimal 1, I need to move the decimal here 1, and I'm going to bring it up. Okay, so I just rewrote it without the decimals, so it's a little neater. Okay, I'm taking 496 and I'm splitting it into groups of 62. I rewrote my problem over here. So 8 times 2 gives me 6. I carry my 1. 8 times 6 gives me 48 plus 9 gives me 496, and check that out. So that's going to be exactly 8. So I'm going to put my 8 here. 496, because this is for doing 62 times 8. I get 496, which is 0. So there is my answer right there. So as you can see, sometimes just kind of knowing our facts, how helpful that really is. So guys, especially now with our break, play games, do whatever, but so work on your facts, okay? Okay, so my fraction, my addition problem was 5/7 plus 4/10. Remember, I need to have a common denominator. 7 is a prime number, and 10, my factors of 10 are 1, 2, 5, and 10, right? And also, if I skip count by 7, I said 7 is a prime number. What I meant to say was when I'm using multiples, right? 7 is not a multiple, 7 is not a factor of 10. 1, 2, 5, and 10. And when I do multiples, which is what we're going to use when we look for our common denominator, right? I want my least common multiple. When I skip count by 7s, right? My 7, 14, 21, it's not going to be the same. So I'm just going to jump ahead, and especially when it's my 10, I know that one's pretty easy. So I'm just going to use the same thing. So we're going to do this one times 10, and this one's going to be times 7. Okay, so I know right away. That's going to be what it has to be. So this one's going to be 10 times 5 is 50. Because remember, when we're multiplying with fractions, we multiply across the top, multiply across the bottom. This is 70. And then plus 4 times 7 is 28. 10 times 7 is 70. Once I do that, I'm just going to keep my denominator the same. That's why, remember, we're trying for same size pieces. And I add my numerator. 50 plus 28. My one stick, whoops, Mrs. Marshall. So in my head, I can do this because I'm adding 50 plus 20, and then I add my 8. But if you cannot, remember, I'm a very visual person. We talk about how 0 plus 8 gives me 8, and 5 plus 2 gives me 7. So I have 78 over 70. So notice I've created an improper fraction. My numerator is bigger than my denominator. When this happens, right, over here, I need 70 pieces for one whole. And over here, I have 70 pieces. So I'm going to have one whole, and then I have 8 over 70 left. And I got that by taking my one whole, and then I did 78 minus 70. That's how I got my 8 left. Now I have to think about this. This is an even number, and there's a 0 here. So I know this is not my lowest terms. So man, oh man, Marshall, you're making me work. Okay, so I'm going to divide this by 2 over 2. And I'm going to keep my one whole stays the same. So I didn't do anything for that. This is just my fraction. And 2 times what number gives me 8? That's the inverse for my division. So I'm going to get 4 over here. And 2 times what number gives me 70? In this case, it's going to be 35. Right? Because I'm breaking up my 7. 7 divided by 2 is going to be my 3. And that's going to have 1 left over. And there's my 35. So when I have 35, I know that I cannot split 35 into groups of 4. So this is my lowest terms. So my lowest terms is going to be 1 whole and 4 over 35. All right, so simplifying. I have 18 over 32. I'm looking here in the ones, and I realize that both are even numbers. So I'm going to divide each of these by 2. So 2 over 2. And I know that this is 9. And let's just kind of practice. I'm going to break this up 2 ways, because that way, if you're not sure, if I do 30 divided by 2, I think of a clock, and I'm going to get 15. And when I do 2 divided by 2, I'm going to get 1. So when I add these 2 together, I'm going to get 16. Just want to show you just all these different ways that we can come up with it. So 9 over 16 is going to be my simplest form. Okay, so I'm going to kind of circle that. Hold on. All right, so we just circled that. The next thing I want to show you, though, is just the quick review when we do our calculator. Okay, so when I bring that in. Now, 2 ways. Let's see if I can get rid of this dumb glare. Sorry, everyone. Okay, so in order for me to do that, I'm going to put on here, I have my 9. And I'm going to put it this way, because if I wasn't sure, 9 divided by 16. So my 1 and my 6. And then I'm going to hit my equals. Now, here's what it's going to give me when I put it in, because usually it's going to be for that. This is the decimal form. So remember, if I want to convert, I want to use my second function, fraction to decimal. You'll see it like that. And notice it says answer, because that's what was in. And then remember, I'm hitting my enter key. And it's going to show me, sorry with the light, 9 over 16. Okay, the other way that I can do this is, remember, this is going to be the key for when I have my fraction. Okay, so I'm going to hit my 9, then I'm hitting this key, my A, and then B over C, and then I'm putting in the 16. Okay, now when I hit it, remember this little line is showing me every single time it looks like a fraction. Then I'm hitting my enter key. Okay. And that's going to show me like this. If it could go simpler, it would put a simpler term. Okay, so those are the two ways. All right, see you tomorrow.